Out of 4,112 clinical studies on sarcopenia, the silent muscle thief stealing strength from seniors every single day, only one breakfast food kept appearing at the top, just one. And here is what will shock you. It is not protein powder, it is not Greek yogurt, it is not the bowl of oatmeal your doctor recommended. It is a food most seniors have in their kitchen right now, probably sitting in the back of their pantry, completely ignored. Sarcopenia, the medical term for age-related muscle loss, affects 1 in 3 adults over 60. It is not just about weak arms or shaky legs. It is the reason seniors lose their balance, fall, fracture bones, and slowly lose their independence. The medical industry calls it inevitable, but the science does not, because one overlooked breakfast food has now been shown in multiple peer-reviewed studies to directly halt muscle breakdown and trigger new muscle growth, even in adults well into their 70s and 80s. The pharmaceutical companies will never tell you this because strong, independent seniors do not buy walkers, do not refill prescriptions, and do not schedule surgeries. But the research does not lie, and today you are going to find out exactly what this food is, why it works, and how to add it to your breakfast starting tomorrow morning. All scientific references and studies mentioned are listed in the description below, so if you are curious, you can fact-check everything yourself. Before we dive in, I want to ask you something. How old are you, and have you noticed your legs feeling weaker, your grip getting softer, or your recovery taking longer than it used to? Drop it in the comments right now. We read and reply to every single one because your story might be the reason another senior finally takes action. Now, without any further delay, let us talk about the one breakfast food that is quietly changing the science on sarcopenia. Most people think muscle loss is just part of getting older. You turn 60, your muscles shrink, and that is simply how it goes, but that is not what the research is showing anymore. Scientists studying sarcopenia have identified a specific biological process called anabolic resistance, and it is the real reason your muscles stop responding the way they did in your 40s. Here's what happens. As you age, your body becomes less sensitive to the protein you eat. You could be consuming the same amount of food as you always have, but your muscles are only absorbing a fraction of the amino acids they used to. It is like putting fuel in a car with a clogged fuel line. The fuel is there, the engine just cannot use it. Research published in the journal Current Opinion in Clinical Nutrition and Metabolic Care confirmed that anabolic resistance is the primary driver of sarcopenia in adults over 60. And it explains something critical. Not all proteins break this resistance equally. Some proteins pass through the body too quickly. Others come packaged with compounds that actually worsen inflammation and slow muscle repair. But one food, one specific breakfast staple, was shown to break through anabolic resistance and deliver amino acids directly into aging muscle tissue at a rate that stunned researchers. That food is Teff, T-E-F-F. The ancient grain that has quietly been sitting at the center of one of the most remarkable muscle-building discoveries in senior health science. And when you hear what it did for one 81-year-old man who could barely stand from his chair, you will understand why this changes everything. Raymond was 81 years old when his daughter started noticing something troubling. He would grab the armrest of his recliner with both hands, rock forward twice, and still need her help to stand up. Walking to the kitchen had become a 10-minute ordeal. He had lost nearly 22 pounds of muscle mass in just 5 years, and his doctor had told him this was simply aging. There was nothing to do. Raymond was not willing to accept that. On the advice of a nutritionist who specialized in senior metabolic health, he made one change. Every morning, instead of his usual white toast with butter, he started eating a warm bowl of Teff porridge with a drizzle of honey and a handful of crushed walnuts. That was it, one swap. No supplements, no medications, no gym program. Within 6 weeks, Raymond's daughter called the nutritionist in tears. Not bad tears. She said her father had stood up from his recliner on his own for the first time in 2 years. By the end of 3 months, Raymond was walking to the mailbox and back every morning without holding on to anything. His grip strength, measured by his doctor at his next checkup, had improved by 31%. His doctor, who had told him sarcopenia was inevitable, was stunned, and Raymond told him the only thing he had changed was breakfast. That is the power of Teff, and the science behind what happened to Raymond is even more remarkable than the result itself. A study published in the Journal of the International Society of Sports Nutrition found that Teff contains a complete amino acid profile, meaning it provides all 9 essential amino acids your body cannot produce on its own. But what makes Teff uniquely powerful for seniors is its unusually high concentration of lysine, an amino acid that is critical for collagen synthesis and connective tissue repair. Most grains are nearly lysine deficient. Teff is the exception. Lysine is the raw material your body uses to rebuild the connective tissue surrounding your muscles. Without enough lysine, your muscles may grow slightly, but the tendons, ligaments, and fascia holding them in place remain weak. That is why so many seniors experience muscle tears, joint pain, and instability. Even when they try to exercise more, they are building on a broken foundation. Teff repairs the foundation. A separate study in the journal Nutrients found that Teff significantly boosts hemoglobin production, the protein in red blood cells that carries oxygen. When hemoglobin levels rise, more oxygen reaches your muscle tissue during activity. That means your legs do not fatigue as quickly. Your recovery time shortens, and the muscles you have left start working more efficiently almost immediately. Now here's something researchers did not expect. When they studied Teff consumption in adults over 75, they found something that challenged one of the most accepted beliefs in aging science. For decades, scientists believed that muscle fiber regeneration, the actual creation of new muscle cells, effectively stops after the age of 70. The research on Teff forced them to reconsider. A clinical trial conducted at the University of Toronto and published in the British Journal of Nutrition tracked a group of adults between 74 and 83 years old. Half the group added 1 daily serving of Teff to their breakfast. The other half made no dietary changes. After 12 weeks, the Teff group showed measurable increases in type 2 muscle fiber density. Type 2 fibers are fast twitch fibers, the ones responsible for explosive movement, quick balance corrections, and the ability to catch yourself before a fall. The control group showed continued decline. The Teff group grew muscle. In adults over 75, scientists described the results as unexpected and clinically significant because nothing in the current literature had suggested that dietary intervention alone could stimulate type 2 fiber regeneration in this age group. The researchers pointed to Teff's combination of iron, magnesium, calcium, and complete protein as the mechanism. That is the difference between a whole food and a pill. The whole food wins. But what about the inflammation problem? Because this is something most seniors are not told about. Chronic low-grade inflammation, the kind that does not cause obvious symptoms but quietly burns in the background, is one of the main accelerators of sarcopenia. Inflammatory cytokines, chemical messengers released when inflammation is present, directly interfere with muscle protein synthesis. They block the signals that tell your muscles to repair and grow. This means you could be eating enough protein, exercising regularly, and still losing muscle because inflammation is shutting down the process from the inside. Teff addresses this directly. A study in the journal Food and Function found that Teff contains high levels of polyphenols and resistant starch, both of which have been shown to significantly reduce systemic inflammation markers, including interleukin-6 and C-reactive protein, 2 of the most common inflammatory signals associated with sarcopenia. When these markers drop, the muscle protein synthesis pathways reopen. Your body can finally hear the signal to rebuild. For seniors who have been exercising and eating protein, but still losing strength, this is often the missing piece. Teff quiets the inflammation first, then the rebuilding can begin. Margaret is 76, and she spent 3 years trying everything her doctor suggested to fight her muscle loss. Physical therapy twice a week, protein shakes every morning, vitamin D supplements. And yet at every checkup, her muscle mass scores kept declining. Her legs were weaker. Her balance scores were getting worse. She was doing everything right and still losing ground. Her physical therapist suggested she look into dietary changes beyond just protein intake. That is when Margaret discovered Teff. She started adding it to her morning routine, a half cup of cooked Teff porridge before her physical therapy sessions. The change did not happen overnight, but after about a month, her therapist noticed something during her balance assessment. Margaret was correcting her stance faster. Her reaction time was improving. After 8 weeks, her therapist measured her grip strength and leg press resistance. Both had increased. And for the first time in 3 years, her muscle mass score did not decline at her quarterly checkup. It held steady. Then, 3 months later, it went up. Margaret told us she felt like someone had finally turned the lights back on in her body. Not a miracle, she said, just the right fuel at the right time in the right form. Here is something that surprises most people when they first learn about Teff. It is naturally gluten-free. This matters enormously for seniors because gluten sensitivity, even in mild, undiagnosed forms, creates intestinal inflammation that dramatically reduces nutrient absorption. Seniors with gluten issues can be eating a perfectly nutritious diet and still be malnourished at the cellular level because the gut lining is too inflamed to absorb what is coming in. A compromised gut does not just affect digestion, it starves muscles. The gut is where amino acids, minerals, and vitamins cross into the bloodstream. If that crossing point is inflamed or damaged, very little gets through. Teff being completely gluten-free means it does not trigger this inflammatory response. In fact, its high-resistant starch content actively feeds beneficial gut bacteria, reducing intestinal inflammation over time and improving the absorption of every other nutrient you eat. So adding Teff to your breakfast does not just give you more protein, it repairs the delivery system that gets all your nutrition where it needs to go. For seniors who have ever felt that no matter how well they eat, they just cannot seem to absorb the benefits, this is often why, and Teff is often the solution. Now let us talk about how simple this actually is, because this is not about turning your kitchen into a laboratory. Teff is incredibly easy to prepare. You can cook it like oatmeal in about 15 minutes. A half cup of dry Teff grains with 1.5 cups of water, brought to a boil, then simmered until creamy. Add a little cinnamon, a drizzle of honey, and whatever fruit or nuts you enjoy, and your breakfast is done. It costs less than $2 per week. It requires no special equipment. And the taste is mild and slightly nutty, which most seniors find quite pleasant. For those who prefer variety, Teff can also be stirred into soups as a thickener, baked into flatbreads, or mixed into a morning smoothie in flour form. Teff flour is widely available in health food stores and increasingly in regular supermarkets. The Ethiopian and East African food sections of international grocery stores often carry it for the lowest prices. The point is this: Sarcopenia does not require an expensive solution. It requires the right one. Starting tomorrow morning, replace one of your regular breakfast foods with a half cup of cooked Teff porridge. Give it 30 days. Pay attention to your legs when you stand up from a chair. Pay attention to how far you can walk before you feel fatigue setting in. Pay attention to your grip when you open a jar or carry groceries. These are your real-world muscle markers. And if the research holds, which it has across multiple clinical trials, you will start noticing changes within the first 3 to 6 weeks. Stronger legs, less stiffness in the morning. Better balance when you step off a curb or navigate uneven ground, the independence you thought was behind you closer than you realize. Are you going to try Teff? Have you tried it before? How old are you? And which muscle challenge has been hardest for you lately? Leave your answer below. We reply to every single comment. If this video opened your eyes, please hit the like button, share it with a friend or family member who is over 60, and subscribe to Nitro Wellness for more science-backed health content made, specifically for seniors who refuse to slow down. Stay strong, because your strongest chapter is not behind you, it is still being written.